Good day, ladies and gentlemen. It's Eric Coffin. I'm here at the 2023 pre-PDAC MIF in Toronto. I'm here with Alistair Waddell. He's the CEO of Inflection Resources. It's one of the companies that I invited to present for good reason, as you will soon hear. Inflection trades on the CSE with the nifty symbol of AUCU, and trades on, I think it's QB in the US. AUCUF, I believe, is the symbol. Alistair, I've known Alistair a long time. He's a very talented geologist. He's been involved in other discoveries. I've been a shareholder of this company pretty much since it was formed. I really like the concept behind it. You got to like exploration to like a story like this, but I'm going to try to get Alistair to explain, you know, what I like about this story is there's a lot of torque, and what I mean by that is it's a type of story where if they make a discovery, there's potential for very large, very fast change in evaluation. And I remember when you first set this up and you and I went through it, and I bought the first couple of rounds. I mean, you explained very clearly about filtering for scale. And I think it's important that people understand that you're not trying to find little gold veins. Like, you have a very specific sizable target type.
Absolutely, yeah. We're looking for very large alkalic copper gold porphyries in a belt of rocks called Macquarie Arc, known for very big alkalic copper gold porphyries.
Right.
And yeah, the twist here is we're looking undercover. So we've used the regional magnetic survey, an airborne magnetic survey flown by the government of New South Wales to generate these targets. And we've applied, as you mentioned, a filter to these targets to really focus in on the very biggest complex altered features we can see in the magnetics. And we need something fairly big. We're undercover. We're looking for something that will ultimately appeal to a major mining company, and that size filter is absolutely key.
Now, how do you, so you've got the magnetics, and one thing that's, one twist that you guys are doing that's interesting, I mean, you could say that you're prospecting with a drill, but you've got a pretty neat drill setup that your local contractors have. I mean, you're drilling to get through this cover and see whatever, a few meters of the underlying rock. I mean, it's quite cost efficient.
It's incredibly cost efficient, and it's a very disciplined approach to test lots and lots of targets. So what we do is what we call mud rotary drilling, which is essentially a very crude form of drilling just to get down through the sedimentary cover as quickly and as cost effectively as possible. We can drill down through that sedimentary cover for about 50 Australian dollars a meter. And then at the bottom of that hole, we then transition to diamond drilling, so traditional core drilling, where we do short intervals of diamond core. And it's those little pieces of core that we ultimately extrapolate the max amount of information from, and use that to try and vector to where we need to be. But the key aspect is being disciplined about cutting the holes off if we're not seeing key and favorable attributes that we would expect to see in the vicinity of one of these alkalic copper gold systems. So yes, it's a little bit of a numbers game, right? Getting lots of holes into lots of interesting and what we interpret as being altered intrusions. So
well, yeah, and you do have. I mean, I know you to be a guy that doesn't get romantic about projects. You're very much a drill and kill guy, but
yes,
you've got a pretty big target set to work with here. So it's not like you're drilling two targets. You're drilling scores.
It's a large portfolio of targets, and that's key. We need to test lots of targets. Ultimately, these are geophysical anomalies.
Yeah.
And I'd be lying if I said every one was going to hit, and there's no way. But ultimately, we need one good one. And yes, it's about just testing as many as possible. So we often get the question, well, why don't you drill the holes a little bit deeper? Well, it's definitely beneficial for us to drill two holes,
right,
rather than one, as long as we're going to essentially piercing the bedrock, the basement. Right. It's just about being as cost effective as possible.
And you mentioned that you're looking for the type of targets that will attract a major. And as it happens, you just did that. That's one of the reasons why I asked Alistair to speak at this MIF, is you just signed a fairly impressive agreement with AngloGold Ashanti to earn in on this target testing program.
Absolutely, yeah. So we've just entered about a week ago now this non-binding heads of agreement, I might add. We're just in the process of working through a definitive agreement. We're in a sort of a 60-day window where we have to get that done. But we're assuming everything's okay. But once that's done, we can immediately hit the ground running and start drilling. And the plan is to probably drill test some deep holes in one target called Duck Creek, which previously returned some very favorable alteration and geochemistry, which is ultimately the reason why I think AngloGold Ashanti got involved. Right. And then we'll also continue to drill test the large number of other targets in the belt as well. But it's a fairly, it's an excellent deal for both parties. For us, it allows a significant amount of capital to drill lots and lots of holes, which is key. Yeah. To make discoveries, you need to drill lots of holes. Yeah. And it's a sort of a 4-phase agreement. The first phase is a 10 million Australian dollar commitment to drill across the entire portfolio over 36 months. At the end of that period, AngloGold then retains the right to select up to 5 individual projects. Right. And then there's a mechanism from which to get from zero interest to 75% interest. Right. And the phase 1 is sort of 7 million Australian dollars to get to 51%. Phase 2 is an additional 20 million Australian dollars to get to 65. And phase 3 is the completion of a pre-feasibility study with a minimum resource of 2 million ounces of gold or gold copper equivalent.
Well, and these it's important to keep in mind, Alistair said they can pick up to 5 targets, and that 7 million and 20 million is per project. It's not across the 5 of them. So if they decided to go through with 5 different targets, it's 35 million and then 100 million in spending. One thing you and I have talked about, and this is something I brought up in relation to other companies as well, but it's really important in the case of this one because of the type of target that they're looking for. Pre-feasibility study, it's, there's no number attached to that, but I think it's important for shareholders to understand that if Anglo decides to take any one of these targets to pre-feasibility, it's that is a very big spend, getting a buried bulk tonnage target. And this is the kind of stuff, I mean, their end game is probably block cave, I would assume. Correct. Based on what they are and the depth. So you're talking drilling God knows how many holes to define very deep ore, and then probably at a minimum putting in a decline, because you just with a block cave, you just have to, like, you can't get to the end of a previous. So you're talking 100, 150, 200 million bucks. Something like that, probably. Yeah.
It's going to be a serious piece of work to complete that. I mean, the pre-feasibility study, it really contemplates all the economic and geological aspects of potentially developing a mine. And so it'll include everything from engineering, water, social studies, geological studies. It just goes on and on. But significantly, it will require a lot of drilling, as you mentioned. Yeah. And that will be a massive undertaking for sure.
Well, and it's interesting that and this is partially just based on what Anglo would care about, I guess. But I mean, there's an interesting minimum threshold, and below that, I guess, it wouldn't be the end of the world if they handed you back a 1 million ounce discovery because it wasn't big enough for them.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll see it through, and we certainly believe the targets have the scale to deliver a project of interest to AngloGold, but certainly, that is a possibility, and that having that 2 million ounce minimum resource is important. I mean, it really will force Anglo to do a significant amount of drilling, and it's that resource category is what we call measured and indicated, and it's no mean feat to deliver that. This will be a serious document once it's delivered.
Yeah. So I mean, there you have it. I mean, time-wise, the way the heads of agreement are written, it's 60 days to get the definitive done, and then I guess you're probably more or less geared up. You just kind of hit the ground running.
Exactly.
As soon as that's done. I think it's worth noting that as Alistair explained, I mean, they do these shallow-ish holes through the sedimentary cover, sample 1, 2, 5, 10 meters of bedrock, but when they feel they've vectored sufficiently to have a not tiny, but at least manageable target scale. And that's where you're now at Duck Creek. That's when you go to the 5, 6, whatever, 100 meter diamond drill holes. And it's worth keeping in mind that set of drill holes, those are the ones where if a discovery is made, these are the holes that are going to deliver the wow. So you kind of want to be around when they start drilling those holes.
Yeah.
I know I will be.
Yeah, and absolutely. I mean, one of the exciting things about Inflection and this specific program is every single hole is drilling something big and brand new that's never been drilled before. And I keep talking about this, but you know, a lot of companies will drill projects that have been around many times, and companies have walked away from these individual things. But every single hole is testing something brand new, and you know, every hole's an adventure.
Well, and that's actually one last thing worth mentioning is, you know, I mean, will have an option on the majority of your property set, and it's a massive property set, but you're not precluded from doing other stuff. And I assume you guys are always kind of looking, so there's probably reasonable odds something 100% on the side shows up as well.
Absolutely. So we have excluded a number of projects from this earning agreement already, but absolutely, we're always looking out for new opportunities, and yeah, there's a few things bubbling away that we hope to talk about in the not too distant future.
Okay, sounds great. Inflection Resources, AUCU on the CSE, AUCUF, QB in the US. Great exploration story. I mean, if you like drill plays, that's what this is all about. This is a pays your money and takes your chances, and if it hits, the torque's going to be big. Thank you very much, Alistair.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming by.